So I'm here visiting with my friend Fred Hupprich.
Glad to know you, John.
And anyway, I come and visit him on Saturdays, but actually because I normally come and visit another friend of his, Judy Ritter, that's here. She used to mine and do a few things too. But Fred's got a lot of interesting history about Alaska. He's one of the few, if not the only person I know that's been here for 97 years. I've been here for 45. I'm pretty much a newcomer compared to 97.
Not quite, but that's a long time
Yeah.
to spend in Alaska.
Your first thing you were telling me about, just right from the start, before you were even born, you were talking about your mom coming into town with one of the first airplane rides.
Well, she never never was in an airplane until later years. After I was born, even Ben Eilson was the pilot, and he had this airplanes. And if you walk down this aisle towards the kitchen, before you walk across the aisle into the kitchen, you look on the left. One of his airplanes is a picture of it on that right there. Well, that's the one that he flew me to Fairbanks with my mother.
Yeah, flew your mother in.
Yeah, she was pregnant with me, yeah. But the cord was wrapped around my neck. Mm-hmm. And
did they...
danger, danger, danger.
Oh, yeah.
So my dad called up. He had a station up here in Fairbanks. And got a hold of on a radio, a railroad program with radios up and down the railroads from one station to another and stuff. He borrowed them to call Fairbanks and got a hold of Ben Eilson, and he went and jumped in his airplane. In November, you know, the river was still froze up right in front of the railroad depot. So he landed there and picked Mom up and flew her to Fairbanks, landed on the Chena Slough in front of the NC Company. And that was before that bridge was built and stuff. And it was just a short way with some kind of an old ambulance. They hauled her to the hospital. And an hour after she was in hospital, they readied her to birth me. And they did, and they made out okay. Everything turned fine. And Mom stayed around about 6 days and went back to Nenana, and I stayed there for another few days. She came by rail back to Fairbanks, picked me up, and took me back to Nenana. Well, that's where I lived for quite a few years till I was 16. Then I moved to Fairbanks. She did do with my two sisters. And that's them, well, are standing there and there and there. Another picture of them here someplace. There's something back. But anyway, that life just carried on then in Nenana. And
you worked, your dad.
Well, after we got old enough, he done pretty good at it, but when we got to be about 12, 13, 14 years old, my two brothers older started driving that truck there. We had another one just like that one.
What brand was that?
Ford's.
Ford's?
Yeah. And
so that was a double A truck? That was a double A truck?
Double A.
Or was that a
T? Very likely. Well, I don't know whether that was we had one that had single wheels all the way around. I don't know whether that's it or not. Looks like it because of the shape of the wheels. The other ones were ballooned wheels, you know, bigger wheels. Yeah. But that's...
It had electric start on it?
Yes, it did. Yeah. He had a Model T for that same thing before he got these, and he traded that Model T in on one of these trucks when he got them. I was just pretty young. I don't know. I didn't really understand what was going on too much, but I think that next one was ready for church.
Mm-hmm. And you said you delivered groceries with the truck?
Oh yeah,
Around Nenana?
yeah. Well, that little Ford or Plymouth, we used that most of the time because most of the deliveries around town weren't too big, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We could get half a dozen or more in the bed of the truck in summertime, and then we had a shed to put on the pickup to have back doors, no heat in it, but stormy weather and stuff like that. We hauled groceries for town. Yet we hauled groceries from the railroad depot into their store quite often. And they even, later years, had a outfit for, meat milk.
Oh, locker.
Yeah, they had the big pan and cutting materials. I got to work quite a bit in there, helping them clean up the machines,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And I think I was a clerk right there for a while. Now and then my dad put me to work, or the guy by the name of running the store, his name was Pearson, Earl Pearson, and he was the manager and bookkeeper and all that stuff. Dad was the only clerk
Mm-hmm.
there. So, yeah, they were the good old days.
When you guys sold the coal, did you sell the coal that you were hauling, or did you just haul coal that people had already bought? How did that work?
I think they had to go to the railroad depot to buy the coal, and we had scales to go across.
Uh-huh.
So a 2 ton, 1 ton, whatever. And they had a big deal. Was that still there when you moved to town?
The coal bunkers in Fairbanks here was
Were they
still
up?
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just a little ways away from Samson's Hardware
Yeah.
on Illinois, where you
Well,
go
yeah.
down. Yeah,
Okay. Well, that's all out of there
yeah.
now.
No, it's
but
been
anyway,
moved.
You know that. Anyway, yeah. We had bunkers there, you know, where I back up or pull up alongside and just go out and pull that, and we had stops on two of them, so we'd have 1, 2, 3 stops, 1 yard, or yeah, I guess they were called yards of deals. So we had 3 1-yard loads. Three loads of 1 yard. You'd take them around the town to different people. That's about all they ever bought, was 1 yard at a time.
Uh-huh.
You know, so we'd always wait till
But that was
Saturday and Sunday. We'd do that because we were still going to school in the wintertime. And
so where were the coal bunkers in Nenana?
Well, that deal was offside, that one we're talking about.
Yeah, the one here in town, but wasn't there one in Nenana also, or?
Yeah, they had one in Nenana,
Yeah, that's why I was
too.
curious what part of town
Yeah.
the one in Nenana was.
Yeah, it was the same style. It had a railroad grade on it where they put it up in the cabin or the warehouse. It was a real long one, and slots on each side to take coal out from it, because the train come up with belly dump cars, and so one of their attendants go along and pull and drop the coal into the holding bins on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you pull up the truck underneath and you pull the rope and it get rolled down through a slot onto the pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you guys had ice also.
We
That-
put up about 500 ton of ice every winter.
And how did you go about cutting it and getting it into your
With
storage?
saws and we had a boiler. Well, it was the same thing as the pioneer miners.
The
used.
prospect boilers?
Yeah. And that's how
What did you fuel the boiler with? Wood?
Wood, yeah.
I've always cheated and ran them on propane,
Well, that's the
which
way to do
which
it.
works good when you have propane.
Sure.
And
But all we had was
Yeah.
wood, you know, and some coal. And we'd get that hot thing, just sawing it right down, you know. It would take quite a while, though. But
so instead
that's
of
so we could get the saw in, because the saw would saw the full thickness. Thickness was probably about that thick most of the time. The spots that we'd find,
uh-huh.
and it'd be nice, clear ice, you know.
So what kind of saw were you using to cut it after you got in there?
It's a regular wood saw that was filed to just sharp blades. They had no hooks to them.
No set.
Or no side or whatever they call them. Yeah, they were special sharpened.
Uh-huh. So it had teeth yet,
Oh,
but
yeah.
no rake. It didn't go out to the
That's
side.
right.
It just stayed straight.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
And they worked just as good as anything for
And then
ice.
you cut them. Then it was
Yeah,
hand
just
movement.
stand right there. And,
So your dad needed kids.
oh yeah.
Like that would get old.
We had
Yeah.
haul it from the river in them trucks. Just one deck load each time we.
500 tons. So how big was your building you stored it in?
Oh, it was probably 40 by 40, and it had, I think, 5 layers. We used sawdust between all the layers, you know, and around. Leaves that far apart from the cakes, and filled them all with sawdust.
So did you reuse the sawdust, or you were always
Oh,
getting
yeah.
new sawdust?
Yeah, we saved every bit of the
Yeah.
sawdust, and we piled it outdoors and tarped it down so the rain wouldn't get it, so it would kind of dry out pretty good, and then use it again. I put it there. And all I can remember probably is 2 or 3 years of doing that, because I think the old man, he finally give up on it.
Yeah. Well, the refrigeration systems were coming in, so
Well, true
it would
they
have been
were.
worth less and less
And
money
see-
than where it used to really be something.
NC got the old-fashioned refrigeration, you know, and the big iron 3-4 inch pipes stringing all the way in the inside of the building, the room where they done the freezing, you know. And everything we done was slip boards, always pushing it. We never, very seldom ever picked up a piece of ice and carried it around. We always slid it to wherever we were going to park it, you know. It was, we broke a lot too. You know.
And then you had it was a double wall building also, wasn't it? Didn't you have a
Yeah. Oh, the inside was sawdust walls.
Yeah, and that was how thick between the front and the inside and outside walls?
Oh, probably 2 feet. Maybe a little longer. Oh, more in some places.
Yeah. Good amount of insulation.
And the floor was probably 3-4 feet deep. Ooh, sawdust floor.
Was 500 tons of ice just for Nenana for the summer?
Pretty close to it, yeah, but the steamboats took a lot of it. Steamer Nenana and stuff.
Okay.
And
blocks, it seemed like you were looking for roughly 18 inches thick, I'm guessing, from your hands.
Well, yeah, the blocks were about like that, you know.
Yeah. But,
They're fairly square.
so you were making them
A little
cubes.
bigger than a 5-gallon can.
Uh-huh.
You know, the old ones.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
old jerry cans.
Yeah. And that's what we used. Well, we didn't use cans, no. But they were about the size.
Right, right. Which is not a bad size to carry.
Yeah.
You get more than that, you really aren't wanting to carry them a whole lot
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
Well, most of ours were made never in a can anyway. Just about the size, because we always had saws that we'd bring cakes out that long, then we'd saw them down about that far, then hit it with a chipper and break them right down good. And just, most of our work was sliding glue on boards, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember, good 5 layers high, I think. Well, I had a lot of lumber there to put, well, some like old plywood and lumber for runners between the layers, you know, so everything would work okay. Done a lot of delivering with a little pickup. Every Saturday was ice day, and just about everybody would use ice. A lot of people. I drove out of Seattle, Kenworth, for Alaska Freight Lines. You must have heard. They must have been running when you were showing up around here. They were over there on Chena River across from town in Grail, what they call Grail, over there and just back of where that the coal bunkers were. Just down back that rack road there.
Yeah, 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 back in the railroad industrial area.
Yeah, and I drove for them for all 2 winters, by God, out of Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our freight was hauled for the army and military.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be Toke, Big Delta, Eilson Air Force, Fairbanks, and I don't know whether we took any. The road to Nenana wasn't built yet back then. I thought if we hauled, maybe we hauled by rail.
Yeah,
somebody.
could you go to Nenana from the Anchorage side?
No.
Or
Well, that was all built after Fairbanks.
no way to get there from Fairbanks either? Either one was,
Well,
other than the
the
rail.
The rail was all, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some short roads back down along the road. McKinley Park had a road 100 and some miles out of the park, going out towards the other end of the park. Yeah. So Wonder Lake, they called it. And that was a road. I drove that 2 or 3 times, hauling freight, and waiting for it to come in on the rail, and then hauling up to a mining camp way out there, 100 miles or so, whatever it was. Yeah.
And this, the place you're staying here now, you actually worked on the foundation for this, on the dirt work, didn't you, before they built it?
Which was?
The Pioneer home here.
Oh, yeah, I was working for Mitchell Truck and Tractor, skinning cat, backhoe, and what the hell else. 3 machines I was running different times. But this whole piece, Pioneer Home got a hold of it through the government land grab or whatever you called it. And they started it, and they hired Mitchell with a dozer. It was a D6 dozer, Caterpillar. And I got in here, and then a couple other smaller cats, or same size cats. all three of us were working in here, this big piece of ground. In the four corners of it, we dug way down as deep as we can to water table. And then we took all the trees and everything else. Some of the big ones we hauled away, but the smaller stuff that we could push into that ditch, we just push a little bit and walk it down with the cat.
Mm-hmm.
Back and forth, push a little more and walk it back, till we filled it up to 3-4 feet and quit filling, and then dozed that dirt back in it, so it made a good piece of ground for all the buildings and everything. That way, I was running a backhoe too, and digging trenches around here for cement piling and foundation for this whole buildings, all these buildings. I was digging those till I was crazy in the head from that, plus water mains too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of water mains shooting through there. So it was a good job. Mitchell Truck and Tractor had that contract. Yeah. I worked for the highway department when I first moved up from Nenana and driving truck out at, well, there's a bluff just the other side of the town there. Kind of a bluff there, and there's a bridge there. We hauled gravel from that thing. They used black powder to blow it to hell,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we'd haul that. And that road, it's the old one. I don't know whether you ever on it, probably was. The dike, they called it. It was about 2-3 miles long
Mm-hmm.
from that bluff toward Fairbanks. And we were there one winter hauling for a highway department. Yeah. And that was over on, what's the name of that street? Phillips Road, I think.
Uh-huh.
The old Alaska Highway. It was parked in there and operating out of it. The reason for that is shipping equipment from the States from Juneau to Fairbanks here by rail. So they brought that railroad with a deal they could haul equipment out into the road commission yard and clean it up, work on it, or whatever they had to do. And then they'd send it out on job. The Richardson and the one going up to Eagle, well, that wasn't so much. That was tied into the Alaska Highway after they'd built it. No, the one Circle City, that one. In later years, they finally got down the river. What the hell's the name of that little town? I'm getting too old and forgetful. Yeah. But anyways.
Did you have any memories of when the pipeline being built?
Well, which one? Which one?
Well, let's start with the gas pipeline, because I don't know anything about the little 8-inch gas pipeline. I remember they've taken it out, and I've even ended up with pieces of it, but that was way before my time. So
Yeah, well, that only went to Haynes Junction,
mm-hmm.
I believe. And it didn't last too long. Every so far apart from down the coast to Fairbanks, they wanted that basically big supply and stuff at Ladd Field.
Mm-hmm.
And that hill over there away from Ladd Field, they had about 8 big tanks over there.
Oh yeah.
And that's where that
Yeah, you could see
gas
those.
come in. Fill.
I hadn't even thought about those tanks being associated with the gas, but you could
No.
see those really easy
Oh, you
against the
betcha.
hillside when I first came to
Yeah,
town in
well,
'79. That was real obvious.
That was due to the operation of gasoline airplanes,
Yeah.
mostly,
Right.
and burned up a lot of gas. They had a lot of fires and bad times with them. They got leaking and
Yeah.
caught fire and this and that. You always heard the horn blowing over there.
Yeah, and if somebody was a little short and nearby, it'd be awful handy to get a little extra fuel out of it, too.
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
long ways without
yeah.
anybody looking at it.
well, I remember when I was a kid down there when they started Lad Field, clearing the ground and all that, building. First thing they done was start building the airport, and they added on to that 3 different times to make it real from, well, I don't know how long it was. But it's a standard airstrip even today, as long as it is. So, which I don't know. It could be 2 miles long, I guess, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Enough for them little pursuit airplanes to take off and stuff. And even the double ones, closed in ones, cargo planes and stuff. Quite a few of them. I was stationed there in the Army out with what the hell was the name of that? It was Junkyard Warehouse. It was just off of the Richardson Highway on, what's the road going back into not Beaver Creek, what the hell's the name of that road?
Badger?
Badger, yeah. Badger. Well, this end of it, close to the highway, or the railroad there, across the railroad to the left.
Yeah.
They had a couple big buildings there, but they tore them down, and I see where they built some smaller buildings. I don't know what they're using them for.
Yeah, I don't know too. They had salvage out of there for quite a while. I had
right.
bought quite a bit of salvage, and then about 30 years ago they made it all online, and about 20 years ago they made it to where anything they sell comes out of Anchorage, Elmendorf base.
Yeah,
They won't
well,
sell it here. They'll ship it. They'll spend the extra to ship it there, but we got to go to Anchorage to buy it and bring it back if it's something from here.
Yeah, well, they had
So
ways and
they just
means of
changed their plans.
screwing the public some way or another.
I mean, it's better for the people in Anchorage, but it
Well,
doesn't help us in Fairbanks.
Somebody up here started bitching about it or something, so they just stick it, you know. And yeah, them were the good old days. But yeah, well, Fairbanks was good. I moved up here in 19. It was in the 40s, 1940s, when we moved to Fairbanks. I can't remember the name. We moved one of them big trucks to Fairbanks. We put sideboards on it and hauled coal on it and used the number 2 shovel, you know, with a big shovel, load or unload. But I liked the stuff that was chopped up for
stokers, yeah, stoker coal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't such a bad and bad ass that I had. At least there's 3 of them that I can remember. It had me back up to their garage, and they had a table along one wall, and then at the far end, kept cars and everything else in it, but you couldn't get the truck in there, so we'd shovel it on that deck, you know, sitting so high. and then move it down till it went down into the furnace room.
And they gave you extra for doing that, right?
Well, I think he charged him, I don't know. Whatever the boss man done, he took charge of the bills. But anyway, one day I pulled up and I dumped the whole friggin' road right in front of the garage door and pulled out and left. I don't ever heard the results of that. Yeah, I was pretty lucky, I guess, getting fired or whatever.
Well, it wasn't your last day, so you still kept working after that. But
Yeah, yeah. I'll never forget that. I just got tired of shoveling that back. Why that guy, you know.
Well, you gave him too good a service.
I
You know,
guess-
if he hadn't got
Well,
that good a service over the years, he'd have done something different.
Well, he wouldn't take the car out to back in. Well, naturally it wasn't enough to get the dump box up to dump it. But you could backstop and shovel it right out of the box into the shaft going down to the furnace room. But he never do it. Oh, maybe he got charged for some extra money, I don't know. I forget I was getting $1.37 an hour for that work. Maybe $5 a day. Something like that. Yeah.
And did you actually go mining? I know you prospected and worked a little bit, but did you actually go mining?
Not in Nenana. Never done any there. But after I moved to Fairbanks, well, it was later years. In fact, after I was out of the Army and stuff, I skipped around and done a little mining out Esther, or not Esther, the other way, Fox, out in that area.
So you got the last of the gold from my place, so it's not there now. I'm just teasing. Since my shop's in Fox there.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Never mind on that piece of ground, no. We were further up Esther Creek, or not Esther. Esther was over.
Fox Creek.
Yeah.
Fox Creek or Gold Stream.
Yeah, Fox, I think it was.
Fox
Gold
Creek.
Stream.
Yeah, Fox Creek is the main one that's behind
yeah.
my shop.
And then
What were you mining with? What kind of equipment?
I'm not sure. I think it was wheelbarrow.
Oh,
It was just a little pimpy
yeah,
toy
yeah.
program, you know. Just because we were doing some mining, we thought we were big shots or something. You know.
Well, as long as you're making money.
I have mined out there pretty steady, and Quartz Creek and a couple other places out there further on out. And it was leftover ground from other miners, and done pretty fair.
Yeah, there's one on a piece of ground I've got besides the one at my shop that I'm curious about. There's some, it shows where people have done some handwork after the dredge was through there, and it showed enough that they must have had reason,
Yeah,
you know.
well,
But,
that's the way it started in the early days with a #2 shovel
and you know, thinking about it,
and a pick.
I would think that they've got everything that was there because it all looks rocky and tailings, but we didn't take the excavator over and poke in any of that. That was on the lower end. The upper end is where we poked around and didn't even get a flake. Didn't even find a flake.
Well, they went through it before you did. A lot of that, because you couldn't tell whether they mined it before or when or
Yeah.
how they did it.
Some of it that I've got is drifted. It's got drift holes through
Oh,
it where
did
they
you? Yeah.
hand dug, and it hasn't been mined yet because the drift hole's still there. But
Well, you know, I think there is.
but that's pretty deep too. That's a lot of material to
Yeah.
pull off.
You know where that, no, you can't figure it out. It's where you're coming in, you make your right turn going into the tailing piles from the dredges towards the Fox store and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's some new homes in there and stuff. And as you're coming in there and you look to your right, you see that ridge that's going down pretty much straight all the way down and into the upper side. Somebody mined in there, put that dome. Somebody sunk a hole straight down in that and done damn good. But I don't know why they never tore it apart to mine it. And I think...
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
I think that son of a gun might be pretty full of gold.
Yeah, they've been doing okay. Actually, a friend of mine had a dispute with them over some equipment.
Uh-oh.
And I happened to know enough about things to, yeah, they're doing well.
Yeah.
They're
Well, I
doing well.
just heard that story.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
no,
whether
no,
to
there's-
believe anything or not. But,
Yeah, because that was part of their claim was that the
Somebody
reason
was
they hadn't
telling
paid
me-
him was because they had no money. And
Yeah,
I saw some of the
well,
reports on what their ground was putting out, and they should have had money.
Well, I forget who it was told me to go in there and do more experimenting on that or find out more about it. But hell, I didn't have the money to
Yeah, that was,
go flying in there and go broke,
yeah.
you know.
It changes. Price of gold changes, price of equipment changes, what somebody else has done.
Well, yeah, mining is a big thing around here. So many organizations started it and went broke at it, you know, and things like that. God, far down the...
And the thing that's interesting is a lot of them, they went broke, so nobody went in there, because they went broke. But why did they go broke? Did they go broke because the two partners decided they hated each other at the end of the year? Or
Very
what?
likely.
You know, that's half of the time. It's
Oh,
not because the mine
damn
was
right.
bad.
Oh, you
Everything
bet.
was fine. It was just they wanted more. They just got greedy.
Yeah.
A lot of these mines
Yeah,
fail for...
there was a lot of
you know,
gold mining fighting. You betcha. A lot of haymakers on account of what you done and what you didn't do.
So what about on the second pipeline? The oil pipeline? Anything
The
there?
one that went along the highway from Ladd Field,
No,
it come out of Haynes Junction,
I was thinking of the
major one.
big one, the 48-inch, the
That-
Alyeska pipeline.
48. What's the
Fr-
one going south
The,
from
the one
north?
from Prudhoe.
Oh, I didn't pay too much attention to it because I know government and associates, they bid together and talked together and everything and figured it was a good deal. Well, I guess it's still running, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's still running. I was just wondering if you had any extra work during that time or stories or anything
No, I
or if
didn't.
you were just
I was, what the
keeping
hell
steady.
was I doing? I might have been driving for Mitchell Truck and Tractor. I was driving pretty steady there for 2-3 years. And
it may have narrowed down in places too, but a lot of it that
Could
I've
have
seen was
been.
8-inch.
Columba, he got something going down at Big Delta. And he got a hold of a bunch of that pipeline. I don't remember what it was for. And that wasn't too long ago, just a few years.
Yeah, there's still people pulling out some of it now and then. I mean,
Yeah.
It's got
Yeah.
hundreds of miles of something.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to end up somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I kind of think there's a lot of building out at that iron other than what it was used for,
Oh yeah.
you know. You know, piling and
Yeah, gates and crossings and all
yeah,
kinds of stuff.
lots of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Well, it was handy, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, well, this whole country's pretty damn good for us, you know. Yeah, take that book home and bring it back when you get a chance,
Yes, sir.
and look through it if you're thinking about old days of Nenana and up through here to Fairbanks, and 200 of them Sternwheelers, you know, and over the course of probably 20 years or something like that. So
Out of the shipyard?
Nenana had a shipyard. That's where they built steamer Nenana. And I got a magazine of them someplace here. Yeah. And I drove that boat when I was about 8, 9 years old. Maybe a little older. And they launched, it was built in Nenana completely, running. Launched it. And I knew a lot of people, the old timers that worked on it while they were building it. But they got her done and sat at the dock there in Nenana. So
Was it, do you know if it was pre-cut when they built?
Yes.
The pieces were pre-cut, so it was assembled
they
in
built
Nenana.
well, it's all that lumber for that boat was shipped in from Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Big lumber yard contracted to build all the window joints and everything. And it was all brought in. They put a special railroad deal, it wasn't very long,
Mm-hmm.
into the yard up there by that bridge. And brought all that lumber in for that.
And they
steamer
did all
Nenana.
that with pencil. Somebody took a pencil and a piece of paper and drew all those pieces before
Yeah.
they cut them.
Yeah.
They didn't have that some computer, no artificial,
Well, there are some
nothing.
sharp builders. I think they came from Sweden or some other goddamn country, and got hired there. But anyway, as a kid, one Sunday, I don't know when, it wasn't too long after it was all done and floating, tied up right there by the warehouses. And they decided to take the town of Nenana on a boat tour. And they did. And upstairs in it, they put in oh God, it had to be the length of the dining room. There must have been 100 chairs in that damn place. And they put in a fish feed. Mm-hmm. And they went all the way down to Minto and turned around down there and pedaled back. But it took the whole day, or mm-hmm. They spent the whole day. And on that trip, me and a bunch of other kids, we all got up in the pilot's room and got to steer the boat. Mm-hmm. And I was about 8 years old, I think, 7, 8 years old when it happened. A railroad spur into that yard, mm-hmm. where they could, and built what I called them stiff legs. They were just a cabin back here with all their winches and chains and stuff. It went out, and all that lifting stuff was anchored to the ground, and it had blocks up, and it only had a certain area to load up and dump and lift, but it'd swing way around. But it was digging the coal out of the cars. They'd park right there where this deal would pick the coal out of the boxes and stockpile it on a big lot right there. And right next to it, there was a big power plant there. They had quite a few generators in that plant, make juice for the railroad and a lot for the town of Nenana too. So it was a pretty good deal. But that was one thing, they brought that coal in what do they call it when it's the small chunks?
Stoker coal.
Stoker coal, yeah. Well, that's what it mostly was, because that fed railroad trains, still using steam,
Yeah.
you know, so it made quite a difference there.
Yeah, you don't want to
Yeah.
be shoveling lumping.
Well, we were allowed, after that got going pretty good, the railroad was selling that, I guess it was the railroad, somebody was selling it to the dealers in town that were loading up there and hauling it to people that were burning it. Just about most of the business houses around the first main drag of Fairbanks were coal burners. Our building was coal burner.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, in the early days, my dad he had a different place at one time, and he got a hold of this store, and it was an old theater on half of it, and the other half was a drugstore, and selling all kinds of drugs. It went broke, so my dad bought the damn place, and he put a front window, tore the windows out of the front, and built a door, and then he made a garage out of that thing. We had 4 trucks in that thing in the wintertime. And we had a wood burner, though. Steam or hot water.
Do you know when your dad came to Fairbanks? I mean, Nenana,
Well,
not Fairbanks.
I would have a guess in probably 2019. God, I would hard to say, but I'd say between 20 and 30 someplace here. 1920 to 1930. I'm sure it was probably because he's a pretty young guy when he got that country. He come out of Portland, Oregon, and he had some relations up here too. That one of them was a baker. He had I got a little thing out on my deal out there, Rappel's Butternut Bakery. You look at it when you go out, a little deal there. And, well, that's what brought my mother. He did, that Rappelt. He was up here a long time. And he started a bakery in Nenana, and he wanted a lady to help him. Well, he found out about his not his child, he was her uncle. Anyway, got a hold of her over in Limehilps, Germany. And she was 16, so he bought her a ticket to Alaska and a ticket for her brother, which was older. And they both come all the way from Germany to Nenana by rail, boat, and every which way they could travel. And that's where my mother was working for her uncle as a baker in that area. And that's when Dad and her got together, I guess, and started making kids, George, Bob, then me. Yeah, so, and he spent most of his life there at Nenana from that time. There's a picture here someplace of him playing
The
baseball.
you were talking about, yeah, up the top picture, I think.
Yeah, there he is up there. He's in that group anyway. His baseball, that way he went goofy over baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sitting there someplace in one of them, just a little tiny kid.
Yeah. Looks like there's two of them that might be of the baseball up there on the up.
Yeah, there's
One of
two.
them's just the men,
two
and the
groups.
other one has the kids.
Yeah.
Their kids sitting down in front.
Yeah. And that was on the airstrip, that ball field. Yeah. Nenana had quite the source of living. It was, later years, it was a pretty good boozing joint. 2 or 3 alcoholic beverage stops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
How many people lived in Nenana at the time?
oh God, that'd be a rough guess, but I'd say 300 to 400 at the most. There in the summertime, there's quite a group of people come in working on the steamboats, and then the railroad had railroad construction taken care of, you know, changing ties all the time, because in them days they'd rot pretty fast and they'd put new ties in quite often and stuff. Yeah. In fact, I don't know, my dad might have worked on the railroad when he first got here. I think he did. Him and another friend, they went together and started working at the railroad. Oh, well, years ago, we had a nice theater there. It wasn't too big, but it probably held 100 people. And the old-time picture joint was up on a stand right in the back, and big windows where it shot right down over the people.
Mm-hmm.
And regular seats they're all wood, but you know, seats for the deal. And then when the no picture said hurry, have church in there. And our building was right next door to it. Our trucks and everything was right there. Dad happened to get a chance to buy it cheap. It was a drugstore that went broke. I was in our shop fixing bicycles. Every kid ought to had. We had the only air pump in the town.
Mm-hmm.
And Dad got one from Fairbanks and shipped down because we were having some flat tires in some of the cars and trucks around town, so we got a hold of one. I learned how to patch tires and stuff. Bicycle, a lot of bicycle tires.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. And then later years, we go around behind the bar and get some old native to bring a beer out for us. We couldn't go in and get any. Some of the kids were pretty smart. They'd have a native there sitting there at the bar drinking, but get a hold of them and tell them to get a couple, 2 or 3 beers out there and put them behind this certain spot. But then we'd have them get some root beers or something else and sit out in the open. And any smartass come around looking for us, cops or whatever, why, well, this is all we've been drinking, this root beer. Yeah.
And how old were you then?
Oh, 15.
Uh-huh.
Right in there. And out of town, about a mile ago, there was an old railroad gravel pit pretty close to the railroad track. That they must have had a drag line on rail or something and dig gravel out of this pit for the deck, for the rails, you know, the right-of-ways. And so we, after they were all through with it, went and we turned it into a swimming pool, and we'd drive out there in the pickup or truck and swim for a couple hours. We had a regular wood deck to dive off of and all that. Of course, town people helped put it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was a good country. I flew airplane for about 10 years, just for myself. Nobody else, or friends. I took friends up flying a lot and stuff.
And
My brother and I, George, the oldest, he flew quite a bit, and together we bought, in 10 years, 3 different airplanes. We upgraded each time we did it, you know. Last one was a Cessna 172, 4-place.
yeah,
Pretty nice damn airplane. And that was towards the end of our get-together, and I went someplace working, so I couldn't. Wages was too good, and I wasn't making any money flying, just spending it. Yeah.
yeah, that was what we flew in and out of one of the places I used to mine. I didn't fly, but it was a 172, and I forget, it was an earlier plane that the cloth wings had gotten replaced with aluminum wings. Apparently the first ones they had with cloth wings was cloth covered, at least that was what I was told.
Twin wings or
No, single. It was
single?
Cessna 172, I think.
Oh, okay.
And it had the bigger engine. Somebody had put 180 horse in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I just dinged around with the one my brother.
Those things are real
back
expensive
east.
now.
Huh?
Those things are real expensive now.
You betcha. His last airplane, that's when I was running trucks so much. It was a 2-place. What the hell was the name of it? Seats front and back. It was on floats though.
Was it a Piper?
I think it was.
Piper Cub, Super Cub?
I think it was a
Or one of-
Piper Cub
Yeah,
before Super Cub come out.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was on floats. And I tried it once. He just told me, you go out there and taxi around before you try taking off. Oh, yeah. I got her out there in the river and taxiing up on the step a little bit. Nothing's going, you know. Finally, I says, poof. I opened her up and took off. And I landed and made a perfect landing and everything, and taxied up to the beach, and he chewed my ass out. I was out there. I says, here I am. I done okay. And he looked at me and he turned around and walked away. He didn't chew my ass anymore, just a little bit.